Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and my name is Curtis Hill. It's wonderful to be here celebrating World Civility, and not knowing what this event would be like, I can tell you that I tossed away my notes. I looked at some of the notes on my way up here, and it said, well, you can speak from your heart, and I will speak from my heart, because this has been one of the most fascinating nights that I've ever witnessed. I saw this dance group out here, and these youngsters. And in my line of work as a former prosecutor and seeing some of the things that I see on a daily basis in terms of the plight of young people in our nation, to see these children come out and provide that level of talent and sharing really brings joy to my heart. And certainly gives me comfort that we really can change the world one step at a time. It takes courage. It takes leadership. And folks, when I think of courage, I go back to my own parents, my father in particular. I'll tell you a little bit of a story. My father, when he was a young man, before he had children, he found a piece of property in which he wanted to build a new home. And this piece of property was on the so-called wrong side of town at that time. And immediately upon securing this piece of property, he was confronted with his would-be neighbors, who suggested in no uncertain terms that neither he nor his family would be welcome in this home. And my father built that house anyway. And his family grew up there. I was born in that home. And a few short years after I was born, some of those same neighbors tossed a bomb on my father's house. This was in the 60s. And it was a valuable lesson for us, because my father stood his ground. He recognized that the value of freedom was to fight for your freedom, and sometimes you have to do this in this nation. So we stayed, and we endured many aggravations. As a youngster, my folks shielded me from most of those. But I saw parents, my father and my mother, who were strong, who had courage, who demonstrated what love and leadership was all about. And I can tell you that my father was the smartest man I ever knew, most courageous man I ever knew. And for me, my father was my hero. And I often think of what this nation would be like if every little boy in America could say, my father is my hero. And my father was my hero for a variety of reasons. He was there, but he taught me through his example about civility. You know, folks, when we think about civility, it's not within our nature. We are not a perfect people, as we know. And all of us fall short. It's sometimes our nature to lash out, or to get someone back, or to hold a grudge. That has fallen to me. I can tell you a story. Several years ago, I was engaged in a political contest, and I had a friend who was supposed to be my friend, and I found out that the person was working against me. Well, I got madder than a hornet, and I decided I wasn't going to talk to this person again, and I was good at my word. And every time I would see the person, I would have to actually work up to get my anger up, to make sure that this person knew, okay, you had really ticked me off and you're going to pay a price. And that went on for several years. We got to a point where, and I do read my Bible, and I got to a point where some of it was starting to sink in, and I thought to myself, boy, this is not the way to go. Next time I see that guy, I'm going to do something about it. Well, I saw him at the grocery store a few years ago, and I bumped into him with his cart. He came up to me, said hello, and he apologized. And I glared at him, and I walked away. And as I pushed my cart down the aisle, I thought, my goodness, I thought I was going to fix this. Well, maybe I'll do it some other time. And it weighed on my mind. Well, I got another opportunity about 6 weeks later. I was pushing my cart through the grocery store, and I've got 5 children, and so I go to the grocery store a lot. Usually I go there 2 or 3 times after my wife forgets something. I get the call to go pick something up. So that's why I'm at the grocery store all the time. But I'm at the grocery store. I'm pushing my cart, and I see this fella. He comes up. He's going past me. He's a little afraid of me, as you might imagine. And I call him over. Comes over sort of nervously, and I said to him, you know, what you did to me 12 years ago was absolutely wrong, and you were a jerk. But I'm going to try to be a better man, and I forgive you. And the emotion that came pouring out of him was really quite remarkable. But the most remarkable thing that I found about that experience was the emotion that came out of me. I hear this, I've heard this in theory before, but this was my opportunity to actually experience what it felt like to release that anger, to release that power of forgiveness. The forgiveness was not for him. The forgiveness was for me. I was the one who benefited. I was the one who bottled up this emotion, this anger, this energy, and thrust it out upon the world. It was my heart that had turned black. It is my heart that couldn't speak the truth of God's love. And I learned a valuable lesson. It felt good. It felt good. Now, I've told that story to a few folks, and sometimes there's some folks in the audience that I have still some bad feelings, so I always tell them not too fast. I can't forgive everybody all at once. It sometimes takes time. And you know what I'm talking about, because it's not easy. We know these lessons. We know that we're supposed to treat people as we would want to be treated. But it's not always that simple, is it? We know that we're supposed to turn the other cheek. But it's not always easy. That's why it takes courage. We're living in a world where civility it's almost like an oxymoron. That's why it's so incredible tonight to see all of you folks getting these awards, not only for local activities, but international activities, because our world is in a world of hurt. Whether it's what's going on in the Middle East, whether it's our relationship with North Korea, or anywhere in the world, it's troubling. We're a divided world. And what's more troubling is that here in this nation, in our own country, we are extraordinarily divided. More so than any time I can remember, and I can remember quite a lot. What is it going to take to move forward? You know, these are very simple lessons. We need common ground. What's our common ground? Our first common ground is recognizing that we all need to love each other. We all need to trust in God. We all need to be strong in our commitment to treat others the way we would be treated. The lessons that you talked about, the question you talk about and refer to is absolutely correct. How would that be for me? It's a simple measure. And if we don't do that, we are dangerously in trouble. I come from a political world now. I don't like to consider myself as a politician. I consider myself a statesman. I think that's kind of better. Politician sounds a little, But you look at politics. Politics is a horrible business to be in because people sling mud, it's all about putting the other guy down. Trash talking somebody. Somebody did this, somebody did that. I'm a firm believer as a person who's running for office. If I can't tell you why it's good to vote for me, then I shouldn't tell you anything at all. If I got to focus on the other guy and all the bad things he does, then there's not enough reason for you to vote for me or to support me. And I think that's a standard that we ought to hold people accountable to. When I ran my campaign, I'm very proud of the campaign we ran, and I appreciate the amount of support, but I think the support that I got had to do with how hard we worked, and we being my team, but also the ability to go out and speak the truth as I see it. Not to suggest politically correct avenues, but what's necessary in moving us forward. Yes, I'm a Republican, but what that means is that's just a party that I affiliate with. I'm an American, and I believe in the common denominator that we all believe in, freedom in this country. We are here to see people prosper. We're here to see individuals soar. The American spirit, the American dream is alive and well for many of us, and it's important and imperative that we make sure that that dream is alive and well for all people. As a divided nation, we're in trouble. We remember what Abraham Lincoln said, and Abraham Lincoln got it from the Bible: a house divided against itself shall not stand. So how can we endure this? How can we continue down this path where we let ideology just force us into positions where we get nothing accomplished? We have great issues ahead of us. We have issues of immigration. And we have battles going back and forth in terms of what goes on. And here's what I don't quite get. In many of these debates, you oftentimes see people simply waiting for one opportunity to have another chance to speak, rather than to listen to the other side. One of the things I've learned, and I think it's very valuable as I move forward, is that, it took me a while to learn this, I don't know all the answers. I may not always be right. So when I start a conversation, I start a discussion, I'm willing to tell you right off the bat, you know what? I might be wrong. And I have a feeling that when I start that conversation out that I might be wrong, well, that might suggest to you that maybe you might be wrong too. And if both of us recognize that we may not have all the answers and we may be wrong, then perhaps we can actually listen to each other and collaborate and create a resolution to a conflict. That's the way I like to look at it. And I think we can do that. You know, there's a Greek proverb that says, society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they'll never sit in. And that's an imperative aspect of how we need to look at our future in terms of civility. We have to be the teachers. Those of us who, against our nature, have to fight with that urge to lash out, have to resist, because we have to demonstrate a new order for youngsters in how to move forward. That it's not about getting somebody back. It's about building somebody up. It's about moving forward. It's about being a greater community. And we see it here today. If I could take this program all over the state, all over this country, it's remarkable of the change that we can make. We can make a difference. I said that once in a speech. Someone said, well, why do you want to run for office? I said, because I want to change the world. Well, that's kind of a big, lofty goal. But you know what? We can change the world, and one person can change the world. We have an example of that. I have that example. Jesus Christ changed the world. From my standpoint, one man created a Christian movement against all odds. It can be done. Another example is how this very nation was forged. America's founding is an absolute miracle. To have these great people who were able to forge this country and create it that was the forefront of freedom for the world. We take it for granted now, but this is a great nation, flaws and all. This is the greatest nation on earth, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we keep it that way. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am so pleased to have had an opportunity to be here, and I got to tell you, seeing all these folks come up here getting these awards, well-deserved awards, seeing these children up here dancing, I am not worthy to be on this stage. This is an incredible event, and I'm so proud to have had an opportunity to be here, to participate in it. I'll go back to my home in Elkhart tonight and tell my family about it. I'll go back to Indianapolis, work next week, and tell folks about that as well. I'm excited for the future of this community. I'm excited for the future of the state of Indiana. And if we work together and teach children about the power of civility, about the power of turning the other cheek, about the power of forgiveness, the power of love, we will change this world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you. Thank you.